Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
The Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Who's got a hammer?
There's insanity in the control room.
Give me a break.
Oh no!
Stop it. Stop it. Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
Up the nation. Waldorf Nation. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Thursday. It's Thursday. That's about it. It's a day. But don't worry, it's a news day. We got plenty of stuff to talk about, as always. Insane Republicans, corporate Democrats being corporate Democrats, and all that. And I have a rare correction to make, yes. And you won't believe who what I'm correcting. Turns out, I actually kind of owe an apology to Larry Summers, of old people. Oh dear Lord, what is going on here? Hey, you know what? Most fair show in America. I own the L's. I take my L's. And you know what? Integrity. You only find it here. You only find it here. All right. So, YouTube's new hidden dislikes has reached me. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, I can still see the dislikes. Don't you think of what that does to my fragile mental state? No, that's a ridiculous change. Like, yeah, I get it. Oh, well, we're going to fight against mass brigading by hiding dislikes, even though it still works. You know, what's funny is that, like, you can dislike it as much as you want. That still helps my engagement. That's actually good for us. And, like, harassment, obviously not good. But the mass engagement, kind of good. Now you're just hiding it. Weird. But that's their solution. Okay, anyway. I know, weird tangent, but that's what we do. We got fun stories. We have, for example, Rudy Giuliani's star witness. I don't know if you remember Melissa Carone. Well, there's some new information about her that's not entirely good. Shocker. We also have Tucker Carlson, an event that exposes hypocrisy, as usual. We have Alex Jones begging for cash. That's fun. And then, of course, Bernie Sanders talks about how the reason that he will be blocking the NDAA. Fun. So, interesting stories here. We're going to start out with Paul Gosar. That, of course, is quite the interesting story as well. So Paul Gosar in the censure that is going on. So let's do it. Oh, and before I do, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Helps me out greatly. All right. Let's do it. Paul Gosar. Oh, that's the worst. Who's the guy that writes these? Oh, right. Right. Okay. Representative Paul Gosar has doubled down on his disgusting behavior, despite the House of Representatives voting on Wednesday to censure him, not censor, but censure him and strip him of his committee assignments. Now, only 2 Republicans, by the way, along with all the Democrats, voted to censure him. This is, of course, Representative Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, of course, the usual suspects that voted along with the Democrats. These are anti-Trump people. But the rest of the Republican Party, they're like, no, not at all. Not at all. Oh, okay, interesting. So now, this is over the photoshopped tweet of the anime attack on Titan that depicted him, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, killing Joe Biden and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who are the so-called Titans. So anyway, now after this, he has not learned, and there is a good reason for that. Now, shortly after he was censured by the Democrats, Gosar went to his social media Getter, and shared a meme that said "thug life," which I think was kind of fascinating, really. Wait, I thought Republicans hate thugs. Oh, no, only if it's those kind. Ah, of course, yes, yes. But no, this thug life showed him in sunglasses, wearing a gold chain, smoking a joint, which I think is, again, pretty hilarious, because I don't... When did they become pro-pot? You know what? Actually, it's kind of interesting. House Republicans have now introduced, I think, legislation to decriminalize all drugs. So they actually went to the left of the Democratic Party, which is fascinating to see. I don't know if they're actually serious about it, but, well, you know, they're learning that they're going to have to try to reach young people somehow, and this is their way to do it. Interesting. But anyway, this caption on this picture reads, "Gosar life." Right. Okay. Now, he also retweeted that same video that got him in trouble, and also refused to apologize to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and called the censure, quote-unquote, kabuki theater and a hysterical mob, and even compared it to Charlie Hebdo. So, now, look, those of you who remember that disaster, that was where you had fundamentalist Muslims that had basically, what was it? They had bombed or, I don't remember, shot up a building full of Charlie Hebdo cartoonists for drawing Muhammad. Well, okay, but there's no comparison there. Nobody shot up anything. Nobody was hurt or damaged here. And so, and it's not even, again, Charlie Hebdo was satirizing religion, which I think is totally fine. Representative Gosar shooting a video that basically advocated for violence against elected officials in a place of work, his own colleagues. So it's not at all the same. Despite that, that fact, here's what he said about it. "I remind everyone that pretending to be upset over a cartoon is what happened to the Charlie Hebdo magazine in France. All right-thinking people condemned that then, and they should condemn the Democrats now for their violation of free speech." Again, not even the same. Not even the same. Not even close. Ridiculous comparison. Doesn't apply at all. But now, and I love at the end, he's like, oh, my free speech. My free speech? Yeah, okay, sure. So, look, under the imminent lawless action test, speech is not protected by the First Amendment if the speaker intends to incite a violation of the law that is both imminent and likely. In this case, Paul Gosar, to his credit for now, is not saying, well, go kill her. Well, he's not saying that. No. Because free speech, as I mentioned, does not allow you to incite violence in the strictest terms. But I would argue that this is more along the lines of stochastic terrorism, which is defined by the public demonization of a person or group, resulting in the incitement of a violent act, which is statistically probable, but whose specifics cannot be predicted. Yes. Now, all of these far-right members of, not just members of Congress, but of course you have members of right-wing media, they're all pushing violent rhetoric and imagery. And there's a reason for it. For one, it dehumanizes people. It dehumanizes AOC, it dehumanizes the left, dehumanizes Muslims, immigrants, etc. And of course, I've given you a million of examples of this kind of rhetoric. Again, all you have to do is just watch stuff from Fox News. You'll see. Fox News, Newsmax, OAN. And on AOC, of course, oh, she's a communist. Her and the Democrats, they're serving Satan. She hates America. They're the enemy. All those people, they're like animals. I mean, remember, this is the way that they described the protesters, George Floyd, right? Which were massively peaceful, 96% peaceful, and spread over 20 different states. And nonetheless, they were described as rioters, looters, animals. Immigrants are described as invaders, leeches. Democrats are considered monsters, baby killers. And of course, QAnon, blood-drinking pedophiles. So, literal QAnon stuff. Now, that said, I don't know if Paul Gosar is QAnon, but I do know that his family thinks he's nuts. In fact, here's what his brother Tim told MSNBC. Well, I believe he's dangerous, unhinged, and is reckless. And is somebody that, as I've said before, needs to not only be censured, but he needs to be expelled. So that, of course, is the next step. Now, is that going to happen? No, very, very unlikely. Now, his sister Jennifer added, quote, to be honest with you, it is about time. Now, of course, the bigger problem than just Gosar is basically the whole Republican Party at this point, party leadership especially. So now, as the final votes came in to censure him, Gosar was getting backslaps and fist bumps from his Republican colleagues. And then, of course, it's because they love this shit. They love this shit. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy also said that this entire resolution is a quote-unquote abuse of power by the majority, and added, rules for thee, but not for thee. This is part of a larger pattern. Well, now hold on a second here. Okay, when did specifically House Democrats, again, House Democrats, elected officials, when did they spread violent imagery about their colleagues? Have they ever done anything like that? No, because guess what? Most of the base, most, liberals, leftists, whatever, people on the left would be like, that's insane. Why are you doing such things? Why are you saying that? That's horrible. No, we're not in favor of that. But again, that is denounced by the Democratic base, but the Republican base loves it. They eat it up. They can't get enough of the violent imagery. Oh, yes, you punish them. You go after them. They're the enemy. Destroy them. Oh, we're not the violent ones. It's the left that's the violent ones. Look, again, imagine if this was a normal workspace, okay? Just a normal workplace. And, for example, if Bob and Susie were working together at a grocery store, all right, or an electronics store, and Bob started posting shit like this, like the AOC video, you know what would happen? Bob would get fired for harassment. Because it wouldn't fly. Now that, of course, there are exceptions, like, for example, if Bob is like the owner's son or something, then you get into like, well, you know, Bob, he didn't mean it. Bob's all right. You know, it's fine. And that's kind of what like Congress is. It's a boys' club, and Republican leadership's like, oh no, Paul Gosar, we love Paul Gosar. Wonderful, great guy. He didn't mean it. I mean, he kind of apologized, even though he actually didn't. He didn't apologize to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Not at all. No, and he downplayed the entire thing. But again, under normal circumstances, in a normal workplace, this would not be acceptable. Why is it acceptable in Congress? Why? And it's because the right loves to glorify violence. Their hero right now is Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse brought a gun to a protest and ended up shooting 3 people with it. Now, he didn't have to go. He didn't have to go to the protest. He didn't have to go bring a gun. He chose to do so and put himself right into a situation where he then felt, oh, I'm so scared of the situation that I put myself in. Now I am so frightened that I have to shoot people. Dumbass was LARPing as a police officer, bit off way more than he could chew. Now 2 people are dead. And the right loves him. They're holding him up as a hero. So, of course, what's that going to mean? More violence. Now, more right-wingers are going to start bringing more guns to more left-wing protests. Oh, we're just trying to, quote-unquote, protect property. And again, what they're doing is celebrating a tragedy, and that's what this is. This is a tragedy. The Rittenhouse story is a tragedy, not something to be celebrated. But you look on the right, they're celebrating. Like, yeah, and then Rittenhouse is going to walk now, yeah. And again, this is a result of the right-wing rhetoric, the far right. Again, when they're talking about the protesters, right? Oh, they're not actually protesters, they're rioters. They're all rioters and all looters. Now, was there rioting and looting? Yes, it does happen. Does it mean everyone there is a rioter and looter? No. But they say, oh, they're all rioters and looters. Bring your guns. They're the thugs. They're animals. We need to protect our businesses, so we got to put them down because the cities are on fire. The cities are burning. How many times have you heard that on Fox News? Oh, entire cities are on fire. Which entire cities? Which entire cities? Now, it is important to know, by the way, that the George Floyd protests, which, again, were spread out, 20 different states, millions and millions of people involved. Now, it's what? The cost is what? For insurance, as a result of some of the violence and the property destruction and looting, etc., about $1 to $2 billion. Now, that's a lot of money, right? But then when you look at how widespread these protests are, and you balance it with the fact that it's 96% peaceful, you realize, oh, well, gee, this is one of the biggest protests, one of the bigger racial justice protests and protests against police brutality. Kind of makes sense that, you know, that with so many people involved, you're going to have a little bit of violence, you're going to have a little bit of looting, and it's going to cost a lot. All right. Now, as far as Kenosha goes, it's about $50 million worth of damage. Again, don't condone violence, don't condone the damage or the looting or anything like that. But you do also have to look in some of the cases, like in Kenosha, where police were welcoming in militia members. Now, they're supposed to do their jobs. Are they not? They're supposed to do their jobs. But no, they don't, or at least the LARPers come in and don't think that the police can do their jobs, and so they bring their guns. But again, that's a whole different situation here. But a lot of this is spurred by disinformation and with violent rhetoric. And again, all you have to do is look at any forum or comment section in the right or right-wing videos, watch a Tucker Carlson segment, and what they're going to do is they're going to sit there and dehumanize the left. They're going to dehumanize protesters, dehumanize immigrants, and then, of course, put out a call to action. So it's not a surprise that the people that are elected by those kinds of people who are propagandized Well, they reflect that. They reflect that. That's why people like Paul Gosar, Marjorie Taylor Greene, will likely win their elections, their re-election campaigns, because they keep telling the side, don't worry, the other side is evil, and I'm one of the only ones that's going to try to stop them. And by the way, as I mentioned, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a Twitter troll along with Paul Gosar. Now, they were both stripped of their committee assignments. Marjorie Taylor Greene also promoted social media posts advocating for the death of Democrats, of leadership, and also recently tweeted out the phone numbers of the 13 different Republicans who had voted for the bipartisan infrastructure corporate handout bill. So one of those is Michigan Republican Fred Upton. So now let me show you. Again, this is a Republican that is getting death threats from other Republicans as a result of voting with Democrats. Listen to this.
Traitor. That's what you are. You're a piece of traitor. I hope you die. I hope everybody in your family dies. You piece of trash mother. Voted for dumbass. You're stupider than he is. He can't even complete a sentence. You dumb mother. Traitor. Piece of mother. Piece of trash. Hope you die. Hope your family dies. Hope everybody in your staff dies. You piece of traitor.
This is not normal. Telling someone that you hope they die over a bill. And again, I didn't like a lot of the stuff that was in the bipartisan infrastructure bill. It was, again, massive corporate handouts, privatization of, multiple public-private partnerships, really no negligible change on climate change. Again, that's why these corporations wanted it. But here's the thing. This entire thing was about building roads and bridges. I got problems with this bill, and let me get, and I've went over that, as I just mentioned. My guess is, though, this man who is screaming at Fred Upton had no idea what was in the bill at all. All he can think of is, well, it's a Democrat bill. Democrats bad and evil. There it is. He just hates it because it's from Democrats. And that's the problem that we have today. That rhetoric, those words, they do lead to action. That violent imagery, violent words, constant dehumanization that you see from the right wing. Now, here's the thing, right? So as far as the left is concerned, do we get mad? And yes, we get mad at conservatives. I get mad at conservatives all the goddamn time. Do I dunk on conservatives? You better fucking believe it. Do I call them idiots, morons, dipshits? Yes, I do. But at the end of the day, I want them to have health care. Yes, I want conservatives to have health care. I want conservatives to have higher wages. I want everybody to have health care. I want everybody to have higher wages. I want everybody to have a better standard of living. I want everybody to have clean water, clean air, a good environment. I want all that for all Americans. And not just for all Americans, but everyone around the world. But there are people out there that do not. There is the far right that wants to get people killed. And even when you look at some of the anti-vax stuff that's being pushed on the right, on the far right, they don't even care if their own die, as long as they own the libs. That's the problem with polarization. That's the problem with dehumanization. With our political climate these days, it's disgusting. And Gosar's actions, and the actions, and by the way, his treatment from his own party are another example of how bad it's gotten. Not just in Washington, but all over the country. Disastrous. Okay. And again, the reason I clown on conservatives is because a lot of times they act clownish. But really, the only problem that I have is that they're wrong on policy. They're massively wrong on policy. And that's my major concern with it. Again, if conservatives come out with a good policy, I've said it before, I will support it. A great example is, again, decriminalization of marijuana being pushed by House Republicans. Yes, I support that. Do it. I even remember giving credit to conservative business owners going big on solar. I love it. Yes, let's do more of that. Let's see conservatives jump into the solar market. And I gave credit to conservatives who were doing just that. So there you go. Give credit where credit is due. We're not playing Team Democrat. We're not playing Team Republican. We're playing Team Good Policy. And I just happen to agree with policy on the left because it's policy that helps most people, the most amount of people. All right. Anyway, let's move on. We got more clowning. A lot of you might remember Melissa Carone. Now, she is a woman in the famous Michigan voter fraud hearing alongside with, of course, Rudy Giuliani. Now, she was actually one of Giuliani's star witnesses that blessed us with some pretty hilarious content. In fact, I'm going to show you.
How many registered voters are on there? Do you even know the answer to that?
No, I guess I'm trying to get to the bottom of this here.
Zero. There's zero. But what about the turnout rate? 120%.
Let's let Representative Johnson ask his question.
So why we're not seeing the poll book off by 30,000 votes? That's not the case.
What did you guys do? Take it and do something crazy to it?
I'm just saying the numbers are not off by 30,000 votes. So
I know what I
saying
saw.
That they're filling in.
I know what I saw, and I signed something saying that if I'm wrong, I can go to prison. Okay. Did you?
Ah, classic. Love that video. So now, Melissa Carone, well, there's some new information about her. And this comes from Michigan Gongwa News Service, and it involves her political activism, or I should say lack thereof. So apparently, according to records, Carone didn't actually vote in 2016 or 2020. Okay, well, that's interesting. But now, does that tell us anything by itself? Well, not necessarily. I mean, sure, for someone who seems to care so much about the integrity of elections and all sorts of election stuff, and somebody who claims to be an expert about elections, she really didn't seem to show that she was at all interested in elections. Again, she didn't get involved, she didn't even care enough to get involved in her own elections. Interesting. Very interesting. It's almost as if, I don't know, she might be a grifter that wanted her 15 minutes of fame. Weird. And she got it. And it wasn't just because Giuliani farted in her face. No, that was actually someone else. That was Jenna Ellis. But nonetheless, I love that clip. All right. So now the thing is, of course, the right wing immediately gave her the attention that she wanted. Lou Dobbs, for example, first one to put her on the platform to air these nonsense conspiracy theories. In fact, she's claimed that trucks providing food to poll workers were secretly smuggling in ballots in order to change votes. Fun. She also claimed that she had worked for Dominion Voting Systems, and therefore, well, she was on the inside, and she knew how everything worked, and she knew the fraud, and she could see it with her own eyes. She signed an affidavit, because no one's ever lied on an affidavit before. Right. Now, Dominion has a different story about her. Dominion recently gave her a cease and desist letter. So they're like, hey, look, just please stop lying about us. It's hurting our business, for one, and you're spreading things that just aren't true. Stop. Just please stop. In fact, here is how that read, and it does show you a little bit of what she actually did when she was working at Dominion. And I found this illuminating. They said, without a shred of corroborating evidence, you have claimed that you witnessed several different versions of voter fraud, ranging from one story involving a van to other accusations that votes were counted multiple times. You published these statements even though you knew all along that your attacks on Dominion have no basis in reality. We write to you now because you position yourself as a prominent leader of the ongoing misinformation campaign by pretending you have some sort of insider knowledge regarding Dominion's business activities. When in reality, best part, you were hired through a staffing agency for one day to clean glass on machines and complete other menial tasks. Oh, I'm an insider. I'm an insider. I know how it works. Yeah, I was right in there as top level employee. No, she was a low-level temp worker for a day. Hilarious. Super funny. Oh, I have insider knowledge about elections and about fraud, even though I worked there for one day. I was cleaning the glass on the machines, and I didn't even vote. Oops. Sad. Baby. Now, the report also found something else that's pretty interesting. Now, it adds that according to a cross-reference of documents that include Ms. Caron's voting history, with Department of State data that shows that Caron was initially registered to vote in Allen Park in 2019. The following year, she was registered at Dearborn Heights. And as of September of this year, she now lists being registered in St. Clair Shores. 3 different places in 3 years. Huh. Oh, that's really strange. Now, look, do people move around? Of course. Yes, people do move around, but how often has she moved around and registered in different places? That's a little sus. Just, maybe it's nothing. A little sus. And now there's one more thing. Caron, back in February, also filed paperwork to run for office. And she's running on, get this, election integrity. Election integrity, that's a good one. Oh my goodness. Now, you know what she is. She's a grifter. I can almost guarantee she is, she was looking at the Trump or Republican base, and she said, there's money to be made here. These people are a literal gold mine. They'll believe anything. They're literally so gullible, I can lie my ass off and get completely famous. Then, guess what? Once that happens, I can run for office and no longer have to work as a lowly temp for a staffing company anymore. Jackpot. Cha-ching. Cha-fucking-ching. People like this are taking you for a ride. It's all about the money. Money, money, money. It's all about grifting their way to the top. Fun times. God. I was such an insider to let me see the urinal in the men's room. It's very enlightening. I kind of wish I had kept that, because I was looking at that video today of Rudy farting during the during that hearing. Oh, it's fantastic. You can see Jenna Ellis. She's like, just like the eyes. You knew. You knew. I wonder if it smelled like scotch. I better stop. Please just stop.
Big, massive dumps.
Okay, I'm done. I'm done. Let's move on. Good Lord. Ooh. Okay. Miss Carone, Secretary of State for the drinks cabinet. The alcohol lobby. Oh, goodness. Okay. Continue the fart show. Was there a real gas? Okay. We got serious stuff. Okay. At the beginning of this week, Fox News was advertising for an event called the Fox Nation Patriot Awards. And that's happening this week. And now the invite to that event is drawing some attention. As per Business Insider, the in-person award event is being currently held in Hollywood, Florida, and it features appearances by Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Dan Bongino, and of course, the main event, Tucker Carlson. Now, an invite sent out by Fox and Friends co-host Pete Hegseth before the event had started promised book signings, photo opportunities, giveaways, and live show tapings. So lots and lots of intimate contact going on here. Now, if you want to go, or if you wanted to go, tickets ran from between $125 to $500 per person. And if you read the fine print, which I have, you're going to see that the entry will require proof of vaccination or, like a card, for example, or proof of a negative COVID test taken 72 hours prior to the event. Oops. Oh, sad. Awkward. Very, very awkward. Because look, Tucker Carlson, mainline event, he has compared vaccine mandates to quote unquote Jim Crow. And here they have vaccine mandates both at Fox, yes, as well as Fox Nation events. Now you can say, well, look, he doesn't speak for the company. And, even though he's against vaccine mandates, he's just following the rules of the office that he disagrees with. Okay, then why go? You could boycott the event and say, this event does not agree with my values. I wish I could be there, but they hate freedom. Fox News hates freedom. Oh, that's why. Right. That would be very awkward. No, but here's the thing. Tucker Carlson is 100% vaccinated. Why? Because Tucker Carlson ain't dumb. He's not a stupid person, but he thinks you are. And that's it. That's why he's telling you it's totally fine that if you don't get vaccinated, no, it's your choice. Don't submit to the medical tyranny. There are many, many questions about the vaccine. I have many questions. That's why I took the vaccine as soon as I was able to. Oops. Look, this entire thing, the Fox News hypocrisy on vaccines and vaccine mandates is very transparent to everyone except for viewers. Again, their viewers, Fox viewers, are clueless. They're too clueless and propagandized to realize they are being played for suckers, for dupes. And by the way, if they die, who cares? Tucker Carlson isn't going to shed a tear. No, as long as Tucker Carlson makes money and gets ratings, he's happy. And right now, on the right, vaccine denialism and skepticism is incredibly lucrative. Railing against science, railing against vaccine mandates, and Joe Biden, by the way, is too good financially to give up on. And that's it. So he knows. He knows. And again, here's the thing. I got to tell you, Tucker Carlson doesn't have a core belief system other than what's good for Tucker Carlson. You only have to look at his career. You only have to look at things he's saying now versus the things that he used to say. If being an elitist helps him, well, then he's more than happy to strap on a bow tie and give the elite point of view. If being a so-called populist helps him, well, then, by golly, He's going to put on a tie. He's going to be a man of the people. Man of the people. Even though he doesn't actually support any of the policies that help the material conditions of the working class. But he's a man of the people. He's a man of the people. Look, the guy's the heir of a Swanson fortune. Now, I'm not saying you can't be rich and empathize with working class people and actually use your power and your money to do good. You could, or you could just grift him for more money and use your platform to do said grift. Look, again, this man went to a fancy private boarding school, is an heir, he's super, super elite, but he wants you to believe that he's not. And here's the other thing. If you look at his career, before he went right-wing populist, he was on MSNBC and got canceled for low ratings. Now, that's before MSNBC became a left channel, even though they're not really all that. They're not left at all. But even before they attempted or started branding themselves as the left. No, he was boring before and would toe the establishment line. And then decided at some point, wait, there's money in fake populism. And so his current shtick is an act to make money. It's a grift. And he does it, of course, in the worst way. Attacking immigrants, calling them dirty, promoting racism, and all while pretending to be, again, a populist while not actually promoting any populist policy. And now doing straight up anti-vax stuff with a veneer of plausible deniability. And make no mistake, this guy's vaccinated. And you ain't coming near him if you ain't. Tucker Carlson, complete hypocrite, fraud, phony. No joke, 3 years ago exactly, Tucker Carlson was praising Bernie and AOC in an attempt to sucker in people to think he's reasonable. Again, yeah, that's the grift. That's the grift. Oh no, look at me, I'm reasonable. I'm very reasonable. I'm a populist. I'm with the people. I'm with regular people. Except I'm not. Never supported Medicare for all, for example. Never supported higher wages for working families, childcare, things like that. Speaking of grifters, a few more. He is not a fraud, they're just idiots. No, he is a fraud and they're idiots. Both can be true at the same time, my friend. That is not mutually exclusive. All right. Anyway. Alex Jones is not doing very well. Following the loss of every single defamation case filed by the families of the children killed during the Sandy Hook tragedy. It was a school shooting. And, following that, the host of InfoWars has resorted to begging rich people for cash. Here he is. It's so incredibly sad.
It's going to take a lot of money to fight this and a lot of money for the appeals. And so I can't spend the money we have paying our crew and running our independent media outlet that reaches millions of people without your support. InfoWars is doing its most important work ever right now. So this is a no-brainer. Please go to saveinfowars.com. Make a $10 donation, a $1,000 donation. Wealthy people out there, your free speech is being destroyed. InfoWars is just the first domino to fall. And if wealthy folks don't start spending their money promoting liberty, promoting freedom, we're going to lose this country and we're going to lose the world to tyranny. So please go to saveinfowars.com. It's Give, Send, Go. They're great folks. They're patriots. We're banned everywhere else, even be able to raise money. And this will help keep us in the fight for the next few years. So I've never issued an alert this serious. I need your help right now. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for your rights. Stand up for free speech. Stand up for America, and don't let these bullies intimidate anybody.
Bullies. Don't let the bullies intimidate you. This is Alex Jones. I love it. Oh, look at the desperation and the unvarnished appeal to daddy big bucks. Because that's what he's calling for. Oh, please, well, what a rich sugar daddy, come save me from the mess that I created. Dad. Baby. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Look, I know he keeps talking about free speech. It's the same problem that, I have with everybody on the right who talks about free speech. This is not a free speech issue. It's just not. This has nothing to do with it. He defamed the family for clicks and views, leading to their harassment by his unhinged fans, knowing there wasn't a goddamn shred of evidence to anything he said. He's lying about free speech. Free speech just means the government can't come after you for something that you say. It doesn't say anything about another citizen suing you for lying, for defaming their character. In this case, telling these families, oh, your kid didn't actually die, it's a crisis actor. Again, that was the whole case, lying viciously about dead children, not once, but for years on end. Remember, this has been going on since 2012. He had been lying about Sandy Hook. Can you imagine the emotional toll it took on these families? It's unimaginable. Unimaginable. This isn't like kooky shit about politicians like, oh, Hillary Clinton's in the devil. And again, Hillary Clinton's a public figure. You can make fun of her. You can say all sorts of things about her. That doesn't necessarily count as defamation. Again, the line on that is I would say pretty blurry. But saying kooky things about politicians like Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton, like, oh, they're body double. We got the Hillary Clinton body double. Yeah, she actually died. She's now a corpse. That's what it is. They're just weakened at burning her, carrying around. While the lizard people are hoarding the life extension technology from all of us. I want to go to space. It's not that. That kooky stuff's actually kind of funny. But no, this went from plain old crazy to deeply personal and harmful towards people who are not public figures. These families, again, dealt with a lot of harassment, a lot of threats, because again, he kept saying, well, the only reason that they staged this mass shooting is to take your guns. He wants to take your guns, he wants to take your freedom. He or they or whatever, the aliens, the lizard people with the lizard skins and the different alien factions that are fighting over dominance of the country, they want to come take your guns. They want to make sure that you are unprotected. That's what they want to do. And that led to real threats. Real threats. Like, they're stalking you. Some of these families had to move several different times in order to get away from this harassment. They kept tracking them down because Alex Jones kept saying the same goddamn thing. And so, again, super, super harmful. This case was open and shut. There's never been a more clear-cut case of intentional defamation. He deserves to have every single dime taken from him by these families that have suffered so much harm. Because again, for years he used his entire platform, millions of people, to intentionally prolong their suffering for monetary gain. Disgusting person. And now, of course, by the way, I called this. I said the other day, well, as soon as he lost, guess what he's going to do? He's going to start begging his viewers for money. And that's exactly what happened. Begging his viewers and begging rich people for cash. Never been more transparent, too. And I love he's always like, oh, the globalist elite. And now he's like, globalist elite, please send me money. Please send me money. I'm so broke. I need help. Please, 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 Daddy. Give me the cash. Just give me the cash. No. And by the way, this is also more proof that freedom of speech is not free from consequences for the people who abuse freedom and their speech and their platforms to do harm to others. I'm glad these awful people are starting to flounder, says Kentucky Progressive Dragon. Abso-freaking-lutely. Definitely agree. Okay. Let's go to the NDAA. All right. Senator Bernie Sanders is going after members of Congress for supporting a $778 billion Pentagon budget for the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, while those same members of Congress are refusing to pass Build Back Better. So now Sanders, who says he intends to vote against the 2022 National Defense Authorization Act, went on the House floor to make a speech. I want to show you one video of that, some of what he said. Take a look.
All of this money is going to an agency, the Department of Defense, that continues to have massive cost overruns year after year, wasting enormous amounts of money, and is the only major governmental agency in the federal government not to successfully complete an independent audit. Now, isn't it remarkable how even as we end the longest war in our nation's history, the war in Afghanistan, concerns about the deficit and the national debt seem to melt away under the influence of the military-industrial complex. People sleeping out on the street, people dying because they don't have any health care, kids unable to get the early childhood education they need, not a problem. Can't afford to pay for those things. But somehow when it comes to the defense budget and the needs of the military-industrial complex, we just cannot give them enough money. But that is not all, and I want the American people to know this, because I suspect many don't. It is very likely that in the defense bill, or attached to the defense bill, there will be a so-called competition bill. And this bill is a $250 billion bill that includes $52 billion in straight corporate welfare with no strings attached for a handful of extremely profitable microchip companies. Oh, and by the way, I should also mention that as part of the so-called competition bill, there is also a $10 billion handout to Jeff Bezos, one of the wealthiest people in our country, for space exploration. Combining these two pieces of legislation would push the price tag of the defense bill to over $1 trillion for 1 year. And I want people to remember that, because when we talk about Build Back Better, you talk about a 10-year bill.
So, again, he drops a lot of facts in that. And look, let me also mention that when it comes to Build Back Better, a lot of the stuff in there that Bernie Sanders had been pushing for in that bill, when it was a $3 trillion, first a $6 trillion, then a $3 trillion bill, now it's 1.75, and whatever Joe Manchin decides he wants to cut it down to, even further, because apparently he has all the power in this government. Ridiculous. There was a lot of stuff in there that was supposed to help. Now, a lot of that stuff was taken out, and now one of the most expensive parts of that bill is corporate welfare. It's actually the second most expensive part of that bill is more corporate handouts, a tax cut. I think it's a SALT tax, actually. So it's going to affect 5% of the I should say the top 5% of taxpayers. So it is definitely a tax cut, and it is a handout. And of course, a lot of the rest of that bill gives money towards renewable energy companies. So there's handouts there. And so, I mean, again, what they're doing is that they're just basically handing out pork to everyone. Except, handing out money for the American people. But anyway, what Bernie Sanders is doing in the House, in the Senate floor, is actually calling out the hypocrisy of people like, for example, Joe Manchin and corporate Democrats. Now, they say that the NDAA is a priority. But yet, Joe Manchin does not think, and he disagrees with the Pentagon on this, ironically, that climate change is a priority. He doesn't think climate change is a priority. Now, it also is important to point out, the Pentagon's, I think, the world's top polluter. So, they would know about climate change. They would know about the threats about climate change because, well, they are one of the big, drivers of it for their emissions. But no, Joe Manchin says, I'm not worried about climate change. Climate change what? Climate change? Climate change? No, not concerned about it at all. And I'm not concerned about, spending on regular people. I think we spent too much. Yes, we've spent too much. Inflation is too high, and the deficit, and all these different excuses as to why he will not support Build Back Better, which, by the way, a lot of the provisions in it, even especially the ones that were dropped, were incredibly popular in West Virginia. But no, I am so worried about the national debt. So I'm not going to spend money on you. I'm going to spend money on me. I'm going to spend money on my coal company. I'm going to, spend money on the donors. I don't want poor people getting this money. Not 1 cent. Not 1 cent. So here's the thing, right? So when it comes to giving money to corporations, when it comes to giving money and doing massive handouts, Congress has poured over $9 trillion into the Pentagon. They're the only agency that, as Bernie mentioned, has not passed an audit. There's so much waste. So much waste. But yet Joe Manchin has approved every single NDAA since 2011. And he voted on Wednesday to advance the 2022 Pentagon budget, which allocates additional money towards the defense contractors. There's no discussion about debt when we talk about this. There's never any discussion about debt. There's never any discussion about inflation or deficits when it comes to defense spending or corporate handouts or tax cuts. Now, there's more. Lindsay Kashgarian of the National Priorities Project also observed this. They said, over the past 10 years, the U.S. has handed over $3.4 trillion, or 3.7 in inflation-adjusted terms, to Pentagon contractors, big corporations, without any headline-making congressional negotiations. Just passes right through. For that money, the U.S. has gotten many copies of the supposedly cutting-edge military plane that has spontaneously caught fire at least 3 times. And there's some bang for the buck. Has heavily subsidized average CEO pay of $17.7 million at the top military contractors, and allowed corporations to rake in profits, even while they failed wildly in the effort to reconstruct Afghanistan. So what was that again about us not being able to afford paid leave, medical care for seniors, and free community college? Exactly. And again, speaking of costs, altogether, this is not just Afghanistan, this is militarism at home and abroad. The United States since 9/11 has spent $21 trillion. You want to find out where the debt is? What caused the debt? There it is. There it is. There's the debt. That's what we found. Look, and again, we got seniors, okay, with their teeth rotting out of their head because they can't afford dental care. Okay? We got people that can't afford glasses, they can't afford eye care. Okay? We got seniors that can't hear. We got $1.7 trillion in student loan debt. And guess what? 98% of borrowers are not ready to be able to resume payments. And yet, guess what? January 31st, that's when that's when they resume student loans. That's it. End of the end of the year. We got all these problems in this country, But whenever we try to fix them, Joe Manchin or some other corporate goon pops up and says, "Oh no, that thing? Oh, we can't afford that thing." No. You know what we actually can't afford? Corporate politicians, corrupt politicians, and corporate welfare. Those are the things we can't afford. Okay? Almost everybody in Washington is on the take from private, from corporate donors. And the average American gets fucked over. That's what it is. We pay our taxes, and what do we get in return? We get nothing. Oh, we get an F-35 and bombs to make little Muslim kids into skeletons. That's what we get. We get a more, heavily armed and oppressive police state from this. We get Jeff Bezos being subsidized to run in a dick rocket. That's what we get. You know what I want with my tax money? I want healthcare. I want clean water. I want clean air. I want opportunity for our younger generations. I want infrastructure. I want childcare for parents so they can go to work if they want, or higher wages for people so they don't have to go to work as families. So one parent can stay home if they choose. That's what we want. Now, for one last point, inflation. Now, is inflation an issue? Absolutely. It is an issue. And it's up quite a bit. Well, good news. Build Back Better doesn't do anything to cause inflation, to add to the inflation, because it's all paid for already. It's already paid for. In fact, there are pay-fors that are literally built into the bill. And by the way, I have to make a correction here. It's rare. It's rare. Okay? I need to apologize to Larry Summers, of all people. Larry Summers. So why? It's because I misquoted him. Now, that's not because I wanted to misquote him, because all the articles that I've noticed in corporate media misquote him too. Leave out very important context. So Larry Summers, now, he warned about inflation. Okay, he talked about inflation, and he does actually say that, hey, look, the giant, COVID bill, that did add to inflation. Now, that COVID bill was stuffed with corporate welfare. And there was $1,400 checks, unemployment benefits, and some other good things, that were in there. And that's why I was like, well, we got to pass that, obviously, because there's stuff in there that helped the regular American people, working class people. But it was also filled with so much corporate welfare, many, many handouts, billions of dollars. And that's part of where the inflation comes from. They're right when they say when you pump the market full of money, you're going to get inflation. Well, what do? We gave $6 trillion in liquidity to the banks. And lots and billions of dollars, like I said, in corporate welfare. Perhaps even trillions of dollars in corporate welfare. Now, what did they do with that money? Well, they didn't invest it back in your business. No, they went and bought back their own stocks. That's what happened. They bought their own stocks. They inflated their shareholder values, creating a bubble, and then awarded themselves massive, massive compensation bonuses. That's what they did with that money. And by the way, they still laid people off. They posted massive profits, and yet still raised prices, not because, of course, there was so much money in the market, by the way. That's not the only reason that we do have inflation, but it is certainly a part of it. The other reasons that we have inflation, of course, is we had COVID. We had a massive crisis with COVID-19, and now we have a supply chain crisis as a result. the so-called labor shortage, it's actually a shortage of good-paying jobs. People are not working for the shit jobs and the shit pay that we had before. That includes truckers. We need a lot of truckers, but guess what? Truckers are not getting paid well. They're not getting paid enough to justify their loads. So there's not enough truckers. Not enough truckers to work for these terrible wages. Not enough regular, people to work at the stores or work at the restaurants because they're tired of taking terrible, terrible pay for terrible jobs. That's part of our supply chain crisis, a very big part. And the other part, gas prices, has to do with an OPEC, the OPEC Plus. So super cartel of oil producing countries that have decided that they're going to raise prices by restricting the supply of oil. They're going to create scarcity in order to increase demand, or I should say at a time to increase prices at a time where there is increased demand for gasoline. Now, they don't want to do that just to make their money back from anything they might have lost during the pandemic when there was a slowdown on the consumption of oil and gas. Hey, you know what would be great? You know what would get us away from the cartels, OPEC, and their control? So we don't have to pay so much money at the pump? Get away from fossil fuels. Invest in alternative energy, green energy. Oh, but we can't do that because a literal coal baron is basically deciding the fate of any legislation that could come through the Senate. That's what's going on here. So just to understand what's happening here and why these things are happening and who is driving them. Because there are solutions that we could do today. And there are people that do not choose to do those solutions because they monetarily benefit from not doing anything. From you paying more at the pump, you paying more for groceries, and you paying more in general and getting paid less. That's the situation. That's the situation. Again, by the way, as I mentioned, I want to show you a clip here. This is Larry Summers talking about, this is Jake Tapper talking about inflation as it relates to Build Back Better. This is the quote that I really want to, apologize for taking it, for not knowing the context. Okay, so let's listen to Jake Tapper.
You talk about the Build Back Better Act, which is $1.75 trillion as a solution to this problem, but your predecessor under President Obama, Larry Summers, he pointed this week to the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan that was passed earlier this year in March. He said that's a major reason behind the rising inflation, something he called at the time, quote, the least responsible macroeconomic policy we've had in the last 40 years. Is it possible that Americans are suffering now from high prices because the Biden administration overstimulated the economy with all of this money going into the economy?
So understand that he leaves out the context. Now, he said, Larry Summers said that, the coronavirus stimulus, helped lead to inflation. Now, again, this is a discussion on Build Back Better. So he uses that to try to say, that's why we shouldn't do Build Back Better. Now, Republicans are making the same argument, and so is Joe Manchin, saying, we've got so much inflation. If we do more government spending on Build Back Better, that's going to make things worse. Now, Larry Summers didn't actually say that. Larry Summers, again, pointed out, and this is the quote, here's what he said. He said Wednesday's report on inflation shows the problem is becoming more entrenched. It seems to me unlikely inflation will return to 2% target levels without strong monetary policy action or some kind of interference with economic growth. Summers attributes the persistent inflation to Biden's COVID relief package, but said he supports infrastructure and social spending bills. He said together they are smaller over 10 years then this past year's stimulus was over a single year, and in addition, they are substantially paid for. That was Larry Summers in context, the full quote, saying, yes, there is inflation, it is a problem, it is high, and we should do more social spending as a result. Did corporate media say that? Did Jake Tapper say that? No. Have Republicans quoting Larry Summers, did they say that? No, not at all. Not at all. So I apologize to Larry Summers, and I point at corporate media for not giving the full context of that quote. In all of the articles that I had read about this, that they had written, they said, they didn't say anything about him supporting Build Back Better and supporting social spending. So that's really important to point out. All right. And there's a reason. Corporate media doesn't want Build Back Better. They don't want to spend more money on us. They want more handouts for corporations. They only want money for the big donors. And guess what? Corporate media, what are? What are they? Well, they're corporations. They're corporations. And they have fiduciary responsibility to return maximum value to their shareholders. And so they're affected by tax rates as well. They're affected by corporate welfare. So that's the situation. They don't want to spend more money on us. And so they're going to lie about inflation. And they're going to push a narrative that we cannot do any social spending that helps regular people because of fears about inflation. And they're going to cover for Joe Manchin. And they're going to cover for Kyrsten Sinema. They're going to cover for any of the corporate Democrats. And then, of course, they're going to go and attack progressives and blame progressives for inflation, for wanting to do things. And for, blocking. By the way, Bernie Sanders is joining other Democrats in blocking the NDAA. So now you have Elizabeth Warren, who voted no, Ed Markey, who voted no, and Cory Booker, who also voted no on passing the NDAA. Now, the House approved its version of the NDAA back in September. And big surprise, none of the corporate-backed House Democrats holding up reconciliation over concerns about its cost voted against the NDAA. So they're against spending for you, but for spending for the military-industrial complex, and all of the pork that's involved. That's the situation. And that's why we got to get money out of politics. All right. If inflation was about money pumped into the economy, in this case, it should be out of control in other countries that gave out monthly COVID checks. Well, inflation's up all over the world, ravaging Wolverine. The United States is not the only country that is experiencing inflation. It is happening, and again, this is all a result of COVID. COVID, and you had lockdowns, you had less supply, and now you have people that are vaccinated in a lot of these countries. They're coming back out. They're going and doing things again. Lockdowns are lifted. Demand is back up. But you have these supply chain issues all over the world as a result of some of this stuff. And then again, OPEC Plus, it doesn't just affect us. It affects the entire world market when it comes to energy, when it comes to oil. And so there's that to add in. And so we are experiencing inflation. The rest of the world's experiencing inflation. And it all comes back to not just stimulating our economies, which I think was the right thing to do. Absolutely the right thing to do. But it comes down to a lot of those different factors. Why are so many people unaware of global issues? Inflation is up everywhere. Look, I suffer from this as well. Okay, a lot of us in America are very American-centric when it comes to news. And again, I am also part of the problem because I don't cover a lot of issues in other countries that are happening And by the way, the rest of the world is pretty focused on our situation as well in American politics. But yes, you are absolutely right in the fact that there is a lot of ignorance about foreign, what's going on in other countries. And again, a lot of our media, again, is, and I cannot blame myself for this, too, that just a lot of focus is not on other countries, it's on America. U.S. media ignores other countries unless they can fearmonger. That's another good point as well. So yeah. All right. Anyway, let me read some super chats before I head out. All right. Dango Bango with a couple of super chats here, saying replace Garland now. Activision CEOs why? So for those of you not familiar, Activision CEO Bobby Kotick named in the lawsuit against Activision Blizzard for knowing all this stuff that had been happening at its company. Well, he is refusing to resign. Now, his shareholders, not happy with him. In fact, I read a recent article about this. His shareholders are saying that Kotick good to go because he is deeply involved with creating the toxic culture at the company. So there's that. Real quick, Rittenhouse judge bans MSNBC from court. Very sus. Yes, I also saw that story. Very interesting. LL says, the right wing continues to incite violence. They will open carry everywhere and have qualified immunity of law enforcement. Very, very true, L. And also added, look at the Ahmaud Arbery trial and Kyle Rittenhouse. The white right wants to be deputized to kill indiscriminately. Agreed. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Dango Bangle again saying, Republicans be doing the exact same stuff the party who must not be named did to the YKWs in the 1920s and to 1940s. You know who's. In Germany, there's no difference. Also, Tyler Hackner says, we cannot have this dangerous rhetoric in the country, going back to a story I did earlier about AOC and Paul Gosar. Jedi Dragon Protector says, far-right chuds don't seem to understand that a civil war would make the traders' money absolutely worthless to use in their society. Secession equals all their money becoming worthless. Well, that's why it's less secession and more of a violent takeover. Tyler Hackner also adds, right-wing grifters are never consistent. Again, very true. They just follow the money. And Gabby Mathis, welcome. Sorry, very late. Husby took me to lunch. Hopefully you had a good lunch. Yeah. And Adam Rish, becoming a member. Appreciate that. Tech Guy, welcome to Tech Guy 420. Welcome to the stream. We're just wrapping up the show, actually. But if you want to catch us live here, 4 p.m. Eastern, daily. So that's when we go live. Moe Barrett on Facebook says you're onto it. Inflation worldwide, we get it, from supermarkets to our favorite coffee outlet. If we want it, we will accept price hikes in New Zealand. So New Zealand based. I hear lots of great things from New fantastic. Sadly, there's the same thing with quite a few Democrats. Biden was jumping on the police accountability train. He said the cops need to shoot people in the legs. Oh, it's cringe. No, you're right, though. Hey, and what happened to all the talk about police reform? Nothing. Nothing. Not at all. And by the way, hacks like James Carville are, jumping on the whole, why Democrats lost in Virginia. Oh, it was because of wokeism. It was because of defund the police. Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was all about. No, it was because the Democrats didn't do anything for the base. Other than, of course, the COVID stimulus, which did contribute to inflation, by the way, to our current crisis. That was the only thing he did. I mean, everything else hasn't really happened. The bipartisan infrastructure, again, this is all over 10 years. is a massive corporate handout. Frustrating. Super, super frustrating, y'all. Okay. Yeah, let's go over here to Twitch. I just realized I don't have my Twitch window open. So, come on with that. So let me just open that to see if we have any people to thank for bits subs. Again, great way to help us. Yes, actually. Rachel Rin 0408 resubbed, said, actually got to catch you live today. Thank you for all your detailed reporting. Love the show and keep up the great work. Well, thank you very much, Rachel. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. And that guy 420, thank you for the follow as well. And yesterday, I don't think I actually did get to consume shrooms and that comment earlier. So, all right, let's raid in to someone else. Let's raid into a left flank vets. I haven't done a raid there in a while, so let's do that. To everyone else, thank you very much for following the stream, for joining me today. Appreciate it. Please like, share, sub if you haven't already. Super chats. Also on Facebook, we have stars now. You can give stars, whatever that is. And you can also become a member on Facebook as well and support our show. Appreciate that. Or, and if you want, patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf as well, another way you can help us. All right, everybody. That's it. Thank you. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See you tomorrow.
Like a shark, NATO, except with food. Wet ass keyword. I like my meat. Tighten up my meat. Beta! Beta bear! There's some whores in this house.
Please clap. They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.